at every event we do, at least one person will be like, non-alcoholic, what's the point? Sometimes they used to anger me, be like, well, just, we're not doing anything wrong, just no need to shout abuse at us. But I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, alcohol in Scotland is important.
Hi, Low No Nation, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Low No Drinker podcast, if I manage not to strangle myself with my own headphone wire. I am chatting today with the very, very lovely Lewis Kennedy, founder of Talonmore non-alcoholic spirit. I'm really intrigued by Talonmore. Lewis has created a very, very wonderful drink, full of flavour, very robust. It is brewed rather than being distilled. And don't worry, I will ask him to explain the difference to those of you that might be new to those terms. And I think he's really filling a gap in a market that we don't have when it comes to darker spirits that people want to replace that full mouth experience. So it's a fantastic drink. And Lewis, from what I can tell so far, is a fantastic human. So I'm really excited to get to know more about him and his journey. I would like to say thank you for joining me. How are you doing today, Lewis?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting to speak about non-alcoholic drinks. It's a topic that I can speak about for ages, so I'm pleased to get the opportunity to do so.
Good. Yes, I can imagine that you've got a lot of insight to share and a lot of passion as well, because you don't just fall into making a spirit if you don't really care about it. So let's start there then. Tell me how you fell into creating your own non-alcoholic spirit. Start where you want to start, but what was the journey that led to the inspiration that is now Talonmore?
Yeah, it's I think everyone kind of just falls into it a little bit. I think no one really, with all businesses, you find the niche that you want to solve. You find the problem that you want to solve. But I was at university and I was working as I was a product design student, and a few of the projects I was working on were with premium spirit brands. I did a project with Glenfiddich and Aberlour, and it was packaging sustainability that I was specialising in. And I just fell in love with the brand aspect of drinks, specifically spirits, and how they are really just an amplification of socializing and engagement with others. And I loved it. And at the same time, I was a brand ambassador for Sailor Jerry rum. And, best job in the world. We got to work with various different brands. But I was also a student, and I was also working on my honours project, and long hours, and had to kind of get the graft in. And just drinking all the time didn't work. It wasn't very productive, and it felt like we were partying more than we were working. So I started to look at what non-alcoholic drinks were on the market. As a whiskey drinker, I was trying to find new dark spirit alternatives, and through sampling a few, I really just couldn't find one that I thought, this is ticking all my boxes. So then I, maybe a little bit confidently, said to friends and family, well, I could do that. And they all called my bluff, and here we are 5 years later, still cracking on. So yeah, it was really just a case of, I couldn't find anything that I liked. I had the basic skills to try and start up my own thing, and luckily still doing it.
I love that. I love that your friends and family made you put your money where your mouth is and said, all right, then, you reckon you can do it? Crack on. And you went, fine, I'll do that then.
Yeah. Well, luckily, the uni I was at Dundee, and they have a great entrepreneurial program as well. I mean, I really knew nothing going into business. I knew brand and I knew how to create various visuals. But when it came to the things like net and gross profit, I was a bit like, I didn't know the difference at all. So I pitched to the uni and managed to get some funding to start the recipe development. And the support that they gave us and continue to give us is fantastic. So it's nice to kind of work with various people who are interested in lots of different parts of business, not just the drink itself.
That's absolutely brilliant. I had no idea about that. And so Dundee is still supporting you, are they, and still helping you along your journey in various different aspects?
Yeah, we're now at the stage where I'm very friendly with the team, and it's less me kind of pooling knowledge and more just collaborating with them. And if there's any business events they're running, I'm more than happy to get involved, or just various chats. But also they're supporting a lot of new businesses, a lot of new entrepreneurs that are coming and learning. And I wouldn't say I'm the most knowledgeable or the most skilled, but I'm more than happy to lend a hand when it comes to startup knowledge and how to best navigate visuals, financial forecasts, and stuff. So yeah, I love still getting involved with that.
Well, I mean, you're still you're in the thick of it, so it's not. I don't even think it's a case of being the most knowledgeable about a P&L page. It's about I'm living it, I'm doing it,
Mm,
and these are my experiences.
yeah.
Um, I think what's really interesting as well about the fact that Dundee have been so helpful to you is the whole student population approach, because
Mm,
there is a lot of talk. And you might be a good person to have this conversation with, because I speak to a lot of people in my age bracket. So I'm Gen X. I'm 45 years old, and so we talk a lot about the fact that there's a lot of media coverage about it's Gen Z and it's millennials that are driving the low, no, and light drinking movement. But it's the sort of older millennials and the Gen X who are probably spending a little bit more money. Um, in your experience, obviously being around the students, being around that sort of lifestyle, have you noticed visibly the reduction in drinking habits, in the way that people are socializing? When you're introducing Talonmore to people now, are you finding that they're just more open to it because going out isn't just about, well, getting pissed?
Yeah, this is like the golden question. I feel is who's drinking non-alcoholic drinks, and
Mm.
I still don't think there's a true answer. I think everyone is dipping their toe into the market. What's been really interesting, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well, but the younger people are not drinking as much. That's definitely clear. And there's a real split between two different groups of younger people. The people who are continuing the traditional socializing, let's go out, let's go on an absolute session, and which still happens. And there's a group of people who have just never even touched it, never had a sip, and are not interested whatsoever. And I don't know what that catalyst is. I don't know why people have suddenly gone, I'm not even interested in seeing what it tastes like. I just remember being like of drinking age, and or maybe slightly younger, and being like, I just want to understand whiskey. I want to see what the hype is about. I want to try it and sample it and get the tasting notes and maybe be a bit nerdy about it. And I'm sure there's still an audience there, but I just really can't see it. So what's been really interesting for us is as we launch our full size bottle online. We're a premium product. We're £25 online for a 70 centilitres. So you're still getting 28 to 14 drinks, depending on how you're using it per bottle. But I do understand that there's a premium nature behind it, and you do need to have some disposable income to buy a luxury like a non-alcoholic spirit. So there is a certain older group of people who have a little bit of money that they're able to spend on it, that are enjoying the full-size bottles. But over the past 2 years, as we've started to work with more bars and restaurants and getting our product into cocktail menus, that's when we've seen a much stronger group of early drinkers choosing the non-alcoholic cocktails at an accessible price point, being like, yeah, I'll spend £5 on a non-alcoholic cocktail to try it out. They then enjoy it, and then they buy a larger bottle. So it's kind of that user, like customer journey that we've been working on to try and make sure that we're a lot more accessible as a brand, so people can try it before they buy. And I think that's where younger people are drinking more.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because it makes you wonder, like you say, when was it that a cohort of the younger generation just went, I'm not even interested in trying it. Not I've tried it and I don't like it, but I just have no interest. Because to me it's alien. When I was growing up, drinking was very much a rite of passage, and most people you'll speak to in my age range will say the same thing. You start when you're about 14 down the park with a couple of cans of cider, having your first legal pint in the pub. These were all milestones
Yeah.
that we, rightly or wrongly, assigned to growing up, and what you did, and signs of independence. And now it's almost like a rebellion, so sort of like, whereas in the 60s and it was like a rebellion of free love, and now in here it's
Yeah.
like a rebellion of, actually, I'm just going to relax and be mature and make healthier decisions. um,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I wonder what it will do to the industry, because you've got people who are who have you've got people who have drunk in the past and decided that they don't want to drink anymore, but they still like the taste of the drinks that they used to have. So they're looking for replacements. You've got people who have never drunk who just want an adult drink, so they're looking for alternatives. And then you've got people who are young and drinking has never been part of their social sphere. So what are they looking for when it comes to having something? Because you need something. People have something in their hands or something to do. So what are they looking for?
That's what we found so interesting, because I guess there's a whole thing with non-alcoholic drinks from a wider perspective. There's a bit of an education piece on, we're a dark spirit alternative. We're not trying to replicate a specific flavour. There's a whole kind of discussion there. But when it comes to people saying, right, so what is Talonmore? How can I drink it? The easy thing for me to say is, well, we specialise in short cocktails, and you can have a sour or a mojito, well, mojito's long, or a penicillin or a daiquiri, but you use Talonmore as the foundation. But when we speak to younger people who haven't even wanted to enjoy a whiskey sour, and I say, oh, you can have it as a sour, they then have to say, well, what's that? And then there's kind of that whole piece falls away. So what's been great is, even like 18th birthday parties, are people still going to the pub to celebrate their 18th? That was kind of a huge thing for me anyway. And then going to the club after, you can kind of don't have to worry about getting in. You can show off your ID quite proudly. And so it's working with these venues to, we don't necessarily have the constraints of, well, a sour has to have citrus, it has to have a sugar or an alternative, and has to have the spirit. It can be, well, why don't we create a new cocktail that has the flavour profiles that people actually might like to drink? Which is amazing. It's kind of like freedom of flavour, which is quite exciting.
I completely agree. I was speaking to somebody earlier on this week, and I said it's almost as if, because we're all building this, my newsletter is called Building Low No Nation. We're building this together from both sides, from the producers and from the consumers, and we're all discovering what we like and what we want. We've almost got carte blanche to start again and say, right, okay, let's not try and recreate a sour or a penicillin. Let's make an entirely new range of new classic non-alcoholic cocktails. Let's introduce this, and so that those who are choosing not to drink get something that's theirs. Because one of the biggest things, isn't it, is people feeling like they're having something that's lesser, or that they're missing something, or it's a lower quality because it hasn't got what the original had. So it's almost like we've got this opportunity to say, okay, great, well, let's just create something that's just for you. What do you like? What flavors excite you? And let's create a whole new world, which is exciting, right? This is the dawn of a whole new era.
Yeah, I think do you feel a sense of duty to uphold the traditions of the traditional, like the kind of classic cocktails? I think that's something that people don't tend to want to stray away from it, because it's tried, tested, and it has been there forever. To break those rules feels a little bit disrespectful to say the centuries of whiskey production. Is that something that when you're drinking, do you go, well, say for instance a sour, would you then follow that strict recipe, or are you quite happy to explore new ways of creating cocktails?
You see, I think this is the thing, isn't it? Because I know what a sour should be, and particularly because I come from a bar background as well, so I know what these drinks are supposed to be in air quotes. And obviously I'm really enamored with the low-no world, so I'm obviously open to trying different things and not judging something by comparing it to what it was. But I find that a lot of people find that as a barrier. It's a hurdle to get over, isn't it? If you call it the name of a drink that it's similar to, it's supposed to taste like that drink.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have those ingredients, then it's not that drink, and you can't call it that, and that's not what's right, because in 1912, when it was first made, it had, it's like people know their history of these things. I think that what's most exciting about this is when we do experiment, is when we do go, okay, non-alc spirits do not taste like full strength spirits. Let's just accept that. Whether someone's trying to create a replica, an alternative, a replacement, a like for like, they just don't, because they don't have alcohol in them. And until David Nutt develops his alcohol and brings that out, and Lord knows when that will be and what that will be like. We have to accept that they don't. And so therefore, part of that to me means we have to accept that it's time for something new, and it's time to create new things, and it's time to try new things. Because until we stop the comparison, there's a saying in sort of, I'm sure you've heard it in entrepreneurship and building businesses. It's a comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare yourself to somebody else, all you see is the negatives. And I think when you compare non-alc spirits and drinks and beers and wines and cocktails to the full strength ones, all you'll notice is what's missing, and you'll miss what's there and what's been added and what's been created and what's taken time and effort and money and passion to produce.
It's a tough one as well, because low and no covers such a wide range of people who are drinking low and no for so many different reasons. And we're, as a brand, not promoting teetotalism, and as we're really just, if you want a drink, have a drink. If you don't want to drink Talonmore. That's kind of how we very much see it. And then when it comes to cocktails, if you want a strict mojito, have a mojito. But if you want to have something that's a bit different, that's maybe taking inspiration from those original cocktails, then we've got a fantastic alternative. But I do sometimes worry. I'm so passionate about the storytelling of drinks and the brand and why we've kind of come to drink the drinks that we're drinking. And I do understand that we had a signature serve, which was Talonmore neat with a bit of orange and over some ice, and it was very similar to an old-fashioned, but it obviously wasn't an old-fashioned. And we had to change the name. We had to call it a ginger-fashioned because people were so upset calling it an old-fashioned. And at the time we're thinking, come on, we're just trying to do something a bit different. But in hindsight, you can't disrupt someone's story or someone's kind of tradition. It's a drink that's been there forever. It's kind of respecting the traditional market while still trying to promote new drinks and do things differently. So I feel like it's a difficult line to walk, just because there's so many reasons why people might not be able to drink, so then want to have that same taste. So it's trying to kind of navigate that in a way that allows it to be accessible for everyone without annoying anyone or disrupting anyone's story.
And I think different drinks as well lend themselves differently to being recreated. And some drinks are perhaps more forgiving. An old-fashioned, that used to be my drink. That was my favourite drink, and I could sit and sip an old-fashioned quite happily. Trying to find a non-alcoholic replacement for that is not impossible, because the drink is pure alcohol. It's alcohol slightly diluted by stirring it with a bit of ice. You're not going to be able to duplicate that. Other drinks I find are more flexible. A margarita, for example. There's more in the glass. The drink is more than just the base spirit, so there's more room to be creative around what's in it, and it has variations already, whether you want a Tommy's or you want a classic. So I think it's a case of experimentation. It's playing and seeing and open-mindedness and listening to what people say, because you and I could talk about this all day, obviously. But we're biased, right? We have our experiences, we have our preferences, we have, I have 24 years of bar work behind me to sort of, which will cloud what I see and what I think. I think it's about asking the other people, and saying, what do you think? Do you think this is good enough? Do you think this is a fair comparison? Do you think this is the right name? Would you appreciate this as it is, or do you think it needs a whole new identity? Because as I said before, we're in this together. We're in this together with the consumers, and they're building this alongside us. I wanted to jump in and take you to your liquid, because I can see that you and I can go down a lot of rabbit holes, which is really great. But I want to talk about Talonmore as well itself. So you created it as a dark spirit alternative. And I said in the introduction that it's not distilled as most spirits are, but it's brewed. So could you, for me, tell us a bit about Talonmore? What does it taste like? What's in it that makes it so special? And what is the difference between a distilled spirit and a brewed spirit for those who may not know or understand those terms so well?
Of course, yeah. So in my development of the product, my end goal has always been the end experience. I think it really doesn't matter from a consumer perspective, from like people enjoying the product. Who cares really how it's made as long as you're enjoying what's in the glass at the end and you've enjoyed the drink that you've ordered. And that was my thought process going into this whole venture was, well, it's non-alcoholic, so why are we replicating alcohol manufacturing processes? So I started to speak to a few contacts, a few friends, and there's no definition, there's no legal definition of spirit. It is an educational word that tells you how to drink that specific kind of liquid. And I really hopped on that horse and was like, right, sweet, that gives us so much freedom to do whatever we'd like to do. I also knew from the get-go that, again, as a whiskey drinker, rum drinker, I did not want to create a product that tasted like whiskey or rum, because I knew that it would never be as good as the one that's been tried and tested and experimented over so many years. Also with like whiskey having to be matured. I didn't want to sit on something for 10 years and then release it. I thought that's going to take too long. So I worked with some great recipe developers and food scientists to find natural ingredients that could hold their own and use a process that could highlight those tastes and flavour profiles as best as possible. And the way that we found to do that was to, instead of using distillates and so if you're distilling something, you're putting it through heat to then use evaporation to capture the alcohol and let separate the water. And there's a whole process of trying to get that, kind of recreational drunkenness. Like that's the reason they're doing that, is to get alcohol to make people feel drunk or tipsy or relaxed. We didn't want to do that. The whole thing about us is you don't have to sacrifice your freedom or your kind of clear mind to enjoy a great drink. So we settled on ginger very quickly. It was very much like, ginger is a fantastic product. It's got a great heat that replicates that nice pleasant burn that you get from traditional alcohol, and it's got a wonderful flavour as well. So what we do is we go through a brewing stage of ginger where we use multiple different types of ginger using heat to extract the kind of flavour to make an infusion with some water, and then we also have hawthorn berry, cactus juice, Assam tea, and we brew it together. So not like a beer brew, it's more like a heat infusion brew that brings together the flavours so they mature together, and then we filter out all of the natural particles. So it's we're actually getting better at the filtering process as well, so we're getting a clearer liquid as we go. But it becomes a very natural blend of flavours that hasn't gone through meticulous manufacturing processes. It's very much, we've got the source of some fantastic natural ingredients, we then infuse them together, and then we bottle it. Which then just leaves a really warm, fiery, complex foundations liquid that matches a spirit strength. And that's how we feel very proud of the, I guess, innovation that we've put in place to create a new kind of liquid that's not really been on the market before.
It really is quite unique, and you use other obviously you use other ingredients as well. I'm just going to grab a bottle here so that those who are watching on the video can see, because I definitely want to speak to you about this. Obviously, your branding background has had a lot of input in this, but one of the flavour notes that really stuck out to me, more so on the nose, was the tea. Because don't you use, is it Assam as well?
Assam, yeah. So Assam tea is kind of our secondary ingredient. That's the one that really comes in after the ginger, and it just brings a lovely maltiness to the drink that I think a lot of drinks can focus too much on the power or trying to replicate that power, but there needs to be some complexity in there as well. And I don't really even know how to describe it, but I always say like the high notes of tea, it's very, as you say, on the nose, more so in the back of the palate. It has the familiarness of tea. People love a cup of tea, especially in Britain, and I think that it really pairs well with the ginger. And we actually use a lot of different tea in our cocktails as well, which matches the Assam. So lapsang, having that smokiness that we can replicate maybe an Isla focused cocktail. I think, tea is just a wonderful part, and it's directly from the source, so we can say it's Assam tea rather than just black tea, which is fantastic.
And those cocktails, there's a lot of cocktails on your website, aren't there? So people can go and find some recipes so they can go and have a play around. And obviously I'll link all of that in the show notes for everybody as well. So talk to me about the design then, because I can see you've got, for those who are listening, I'm going to do my very best to describe this. So it's a beautiful squat style bottle with, on the front, you have an array of different images, which are all related somehow, obviously, to the drink. I'm seeing bits of Scotland. I'm seeing eagles. I'm seeing fish. Tell me a bit about this branding and this design and how you brought all that together then.
Yeah, I mean, I was so lucky. I was at design school when I was creating the label, so I love branding. I love getting involved, and I worked with a few friends as well to kind of create that brand identity. And Jordan Breyer was part of that process as well. And the whole thing for me is storytelling. I want Talonmore to be promoting socialising through drinks, more specifically healthier socialising through non-alcoholic drinks. And for me, that comes the whole process of Talonmore is sat behind the back bar in a pub. The bartender can take the bottle off the shelf and say, like, have you heard about this specific story on the bottle? So we've got like a mosaic of I think there's 12 or 13 different illustrations which all highlight a different story, whether that's my background or Scotland or one of my favourite ones is just one of the really basic ones, which is it's an illustration of a quaich. And a quaich is a traditional Scottish sharing bowl which whiskey used to be poured into, and you would be sat around a fire, and it's got two handles, and you'd kind of take a sip and you'd pass it on to the next person, and highlighting that kind of social aspect which we want to highlight ourselves, which has been going on for hundreds of years, showing that drinks, yes, the actual drink might change, but the actual socialising activity stays the same. But more specifically to the eagle as well, we've got our primary icon is our eagle, and growing up, I grew up in Cramond in Scotland, just right next to Edinburgh, and it's got a wide history of Roman settlement. It's kind of as far as the Romans went north, and right next to the River Amond, where Cramond feeds into the Forth, is a huge rock, and on the rock there's a carving of an eagle, which was done by a Roman soldier 2,000 years ago. And it's it's faded, it's been on the coastline, but it's still there. And Eagle Rock was a kind of huge inspiration. And looking at the symbolism of an eagle is power, strength, and independence. And I just thought that really captures everything that we want to do as a business. We want to encourage people to have their independence, and without sacrificing your strength or your power. It kind of talks about everything we want to encourage people to do, but also the liquid itself. So having that eagle icon is very special to us.
That's amazing. I'll definitely find some images of that and share for those who are watching, and then just encourage those who are listening to go and Google it. Did that lend itself to your name as well then? So obviously you have Eagle and Talon. Is that part of the inspiration for the name?
Absolutely. The thing for us is we tried so many names. Naming a company is so hard.
So hard. Yeah.
It sucks. And we realised we just needed to make up a word. And Talon, the way we justify it is that a lot of our ingredients are natural and from the ground, and an eagle's touch point with the ground is their talon. And it was that kind of nice, maybe slightly pulled together justification. And then a lot of whiskies, and there's a lot of Gaelic in the word more, and we added that to the end. So it felt like it's more of an educational thing as well. Like Talonmore sounds like it's a dark spirit, therefore maybe helps people understand how to drink it, just in the name. And also I didn't really want to have people ordering our drink and worry that people around them were going to be like, oh, ding, 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 non-alcoholic, their drink
Right.
non-alcoholic. I think at the stage, this is 5 years ago during the development, we've come so far since, even in just 5 years. But I was still conscious at that time I don't want to draw attention that this is non-alcoholic. I want people to be quite comfortable ordering it wherever.
Yeah, and it definitely does sound like that. It's funny you said about naming being really hard. I remember I interviewed Johnny Johnson, who's the founder of Unlimited Beer,
Yeah.
and he said that it was the hardest thing he did in launching the business was trying to come up with the name, and that there was just a wealth of terrible names, and he was just like, this is so impossible. And it really is, because you want to be able to portray all the things that you're passionate about in one word. It's really hard to do that. So
Yeah. And then you come up with one, and you think, yep, this is it, I'm really happy with this, and someone else owns it.
yeah.
They've just trademarked them all. So, yeah, it took us a while.
Can we stick with Scotland for a little bit? Because obviously you're introducing a non-alc spirit to a country that has quite a checkered relationship with alcohol. And I had this conversation as well with Jamie at Ferragaya, because it's interesting to sort of see, my phrase is building low-no nation. I like that we are a world that's coming together with this, but different parts of our world have different relationships with alcohol. How have you found the reception? Obviously, we've spoken about the younger generation and the students, but perhaps with other cohorts in Scotland who have a more connected relationship with alcohol. How has the reception been there? And are you seeing much of a change? Because the reports and the numbers say that things are getting better everywhere. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I think, I this is going back to the respect of how things have been for so long. City centres, cocktail bars are popping up everywhere, and there's more of a pull to be like, can we please have this product? We're looking for something exactly like this. And that's been amazing to see, and that's growing more and more throughout this very specific pubs in general are looking for non-alcoholic drinks. When we we do some samplings and we do events and various things. And, at every event we do, at least one person will be like, non-alcoholic, what's the point? And sometimes it used to anger me, be like, well, we're not doing anything wrong, just no need to shout abuse at us. But kind of, I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, alcohol in Scotland is important. It's such a huge part of people's lives, and going to the pub at the weekend or having a drink, and there's so many institutions that have been around for so long that people really do, I guess, rely on is the wrong word, but they feel very closely loyal to these brands, and they're kind of just sticking up for what they know. But now I quite enjoy when someone says, non-alcoholic, what's the point? Because we just say, no worries, come and try it. Like, just have a sip, and hey, if you don't like it, that's totally fine, move on. And yeah, nearly every time we'll be like, oh, okay, fine, I understand that. Once they've tried it, they go, I can imagine sipping that in one of the cocktails that we kind of show off at our stalls and samplings, and the very quick turnaround from someone saying, I'm angry that you're going to take my alcohol away from me, to them being like, we're not taking that away from you, have it if you like to have it, but also, here's a great alternative if you're not drinking. It becomes a very easy conversation once the sampling's taken place. So yeah, I feel certainly people who have had that experience of drinking are a bit more opinionated about it, but once we have a chat with them and they maybe just enlighten them to non-alcoholic spirits are a thing, by the way. I know that it's a bit of a juxtaposition of a product, but why don't you just give it a try? They seem to come around pretty quickly, so it's great to see, and you feel quite good about yourself.
Yeah, well, I can attest. They definitely are a thing. It's and you're right. I think people can become almost affronted by the idea that you're trying to tell them not to drink or you're trying to stop them. But your philosophy sits very well with mine, is that I'm not telling you not to drink. I'm not telling you that you have to change and that your lifestyle is wrong, and that we all know that alcohol isn't healthy for us. If you're old enough to have had several drinks in your life, you're old enough to know the consequences of that. So I never see it as my place to tell somebody whether they should or they shouldn't drink. You're grown up, you
Yeah.
make your own choices. What I want to do, and it sounds like what you're also doing, is just trying to provide options to say, do you know that you don't have to have a drink every time you're out? And if you choose not to have a drink, then you can have these amazing drinks instead.
Mm.
And I think it's getting people past that stage where they're defensive about it, and letting them understand and realize that nobody here is judging. This is not about saying that your life choices are wrong. This is just about saying there are more choices for when you want to make them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think everyone's scared of change in a way, and by forcing that, as someone who's relatively young, especially in business, no one wants to be told by a 26-year-old what to do. I mean, that makes no sense. They get a bit annoyed at that anyway. So, kind of coming from the perspective of, I'm not trying to change anything other than showing you a different option, and I think that's the nice way to do it. I think like pushing that kind of teetotalism agenda sometimes can be a bit aggressive in a way, and I think that's just not how we want to, as a brand, have that. The tone of voice is always friendly, and I think we always want to be like, do it, as you say, do whatever you'd like to do, and if you don't want to drink, please drink us. that's the goal. Have a Talonmore. That's the goal.
Well, I mean, it's counterproductive, isn't it? Because I know that when I was, partying, or when I was, wanting a drink, if somebody told me not to, and said, no, you're not allowed to, or that's bad for you, or did you know it was poison, or you'll be a bad parent, or I'd be like, fuck off. I'm going to have two now.
I'm going to have more now.
Me too. Yeah. We dig our heels in. We're stubborn people, and I've found that nobody likes being told what to do, whether it's by a 26-year-old or by a 45-year-old. I find that nobody likes being told what to do. No. So just by simply opening the door, I think that's the most important thing, is just by showing that there are other options when they want that. And that's what I'm trying to achieve, because when I was working in bars and restaurants and when I was out, there weren't any other options. I find this amazing now that there are all of these amazing drinks, all of these brands, and people working and trying so hard to create these amazing adult flavors for adult drinking experiences. Because when I was out there, it was just Beck's Blue, and I wasn't actually looking for alcohol-free drinks, so I wasn't drinking them. But even in my bars that I was running, there wasn't anything. It was that, or it was elderflower and soda, a pint of Coke, and I hate Coke. So
that's the thing, when people get slightly annoyed, is all we're doing is trying to create tasty drinks. Like that's at the end of the day, all we're doing. Let's all take it less seriously for a second. We're just trying to make something that tastes nice, and take it or leave it, but you'll enjoy it if you take it. I think that's the... I speak to friends who've got such a variety of different jobs, and they're saving lives, and they're doing really. I do think we're doing important stuff. It's still a big part of people's lives, but we're not saving lives. So maybe we are in a certain way, but we're not directly in the operating room. So let's just all have a bit of fun and create a nice cocktail and have a good chat. That's the goal.
No, I know what you mean. Look, some people do see these drinks as lifesavers, and they do say that, if it wasn't for non-alcoholic drinks, then they would be drawn to the hard stuff. Other people say that non-alcoholic drinks are gateways to more alcohol and can be more triggering. Wherever you stand on it, you're absolutely right, Lewis. This is not when people get so het up about it and they get so angry, and you see, particularly online, the trolls and the vitriol and the what's the point in that, and you're ruining lives and you're ruining the pub industry. It's like, dude, just chill out. We're just making a drink that tastes nice. If you don't like it, don't drink it.
And that's why I feel very strongly about that as well. I love hospitality venues. I think that there's such a nice thing about going into a pub and meeting your friends. And as people start to drink less, I worry about those venues. I think that people, who's going to go if they're not drinking alcohol if it wasn't for non-alcoholic drinks maybe holding up a certain part of that lost audience. So I think, anyone who does say that non-alcoholic drinks are ruining pubs, I think in many ways we're saving pubs, and that's what, whether I'm kind of on my high horse or not, I think that I love the idea of still going to the pub and having a non-alcoholic drink. I'd rather do that than kind of on a weekend. That's a really nice plan for me. That's how I enjoy spending my time. And yeah, sometimes you can have a beer, but I can also have a non-alcoholic drink. I can have a Talonmore. So I do think I feel very strongly and proud of the fact that non-alcoholic drinks are providing and helping with the hospitality movement in a different direction.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's the numbers, aren't there? All the studies from CAM about how much money is lost from our on-trade by not having something to upsell to somebody who goes, I'm not drinking, I'll just have some water. And we're looking at £800 million that could be put across the bar into the tills by having non-alc beers and wines and cocktails and spirits, and just something for people to go, all right, I can have something nice. Or like you say, people who are going in, you still be having a drink. You can be drinking and decide that, do you know what? I want to slow down. I'm going to have a non-alc this time.
Yeah.
Or, one for the road. All right, guys, you have an extra one, but I'm just going to have an alcohol-free beer. It's not just a case of we're not drinking, so we're going to stay at home and watch Coronation Street. There are other things that people want to go out. And it's also opening up, I think, a whole other world of hospitality and socializing. You've got the sort of competitive socializing with things like your axe throwing and your mini golf and things like that. And I'm shocked. I'm always shocked. You've got axe throwing and then there's a bar. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a really good idea. I appreciate that you can't drink before you start, but it doesn't seem like a good mix. Let's throw a whole bunch of alcohol-free drinks in there, or low, no, and light drinks in there, and allow people to keep drinking and keep having a good time without putting themselves or anybody else in extra peril whilst wielding an axe.
Oh, well, that's a great opportunity there's a great company called Black Axe Throwing, and they have one of the best non-alcoholic bars next to the axe throwing. You're totally right. I can't imagine how axe throwing and drinking alcohol would pair well. But yeah, they've got fantastic bars all over the country, so I definitely would recommend Black Axe. They're great. Amazing. I'm not sure endorsements. I'm not paid by them, but I do feel very strong. I like what they're doing. It's cool.
No, that's cool. That's cool because people are always looking for things to do, right? So they're looking for places to go and hang out. So I'll Google them myself and link them in the show notes below.
Yeah, sweet, cool.
Lewis, before I let you go, where can people go and find out more about you? Because you're obviously a very impassioned man who is doing something absolutely amazing. Your drink tastes fantastic. People need to go and try a bottle, and they want to find out more about you and what you might be up to and what might be coming next. Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so the best place is on our website, talonmoredrinks.com. We've got all of our information, our signature serves on there. You can also purchase bottles on our website. We've got some really exciting projects coming up. We're releasing our ready-to-drink cans soon, which will have kind of functional ingredients that I don't think anyone's used before. So it's quite exciting in drinks. So that's really exciting. So stay tuned on there. There's a newsletter on our website where you can get those updates. And check us out in your local pubs and restaurants, hopefully. And if it's not there, ask for it and we can hopefully get in. That'd be quite nice.
Absolutely. And I'm excited about that, the RTD. When are you going to be launching that?
I think in the next couple of months, just shy of 2 months. We're using mushrooms actually as the kind of key. So it'll be a bit of a cognitive cocktail, which I think is going to be really exciting. And looking forward to getting everyone trying it. It'd be great.
Cognitive cocktail, I like that. That sounds fantastic. Lewis, last question is the barbecue question. I'm not sure what the weather is like up in Scotland right now. Hopefully you're getting some sun.
It's not raining for once.
Yeah, so that's summer, right? If it's not raining, that means it's summer in Scotland.
Tan through the window.
So it's not raining and your mate's having a barbecue. And obviously, when you go to a barbecue, you bring in a couple of drinks along to enjoy. Obviously, a bottle of Talonmore, or if it's in a couple of months, a can of Talonmore ready to drink. It's top of the list. But other than your own fantastic brand, what other low, no, or light drinks would you be enjoying on a day like that?
Yeah, I think barbecue, got to have some beer. I've got a really great Scottish non-alcoholic beer company, Jump Ship, good friends of ours. So have to have some Jump Ship cans. They've got such a great selection as well, so different beer for everyone. And I think barbecue also has to have some sort of spirits. So I love Wilfred's. Big fan of Wilfred's. They do fantastic spirits, and we've got a partner cocktail with them, the Wilmore spirits as well. So we can try both together and have a bit of collaboration. So yeah, Jump Ship and Wilfred are barbecue musts for me.
Excellent. Great choices, great choices. I saw that actually because done a couple of collaborations, haven't you?
Mm.
You've
Yeah,
got
I
any
think that's
more in
the
the
most
in the
exciting thing about
plans?
drinks. Yeah, just partnering with. That's the nice thing about non-alcoholic drinks. We're all doing something different, and cocktails encourage collaboration. So yeah, we try and mix and match as much as we can, and get different flavors, different style of drinks, and we've come up with some really great cocktails throughout that process. So yeah, we're going to continue to see who we can partner with and keep expanding our range of cocktails.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so if there's anybody out there who's listening, a brand who would like to do a collaboration, then I encourage you to reach out because the ones that you've done and the ones I've seen on your website look absolutely amazing. Because you did one with Jump Ship as well, and I really want to try that. So I'm going to give that one a go.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Lewis, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I'd love to invite you to come back onto the podcast, perhaps a little bit further down the line when you're in the next chapter of your adventure, because I'm sure there's a lot more ground we can cover. But for now, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate that.